You want to light up? Delaware may be the place to go. There is an initiative with promise to decriminalize marijuana all throughout the state. This is the Delaware way. Marijuana is now legal in 2 states, and across the country, more and more states are decriminalizing marijuana. So what about Delaware? Here to talk about that is Neill Franklin, who is Executive Director of Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, and Representative Helene Keeley, who is a state representative in Delaware of the 3rd District, which is in Wilmington, which is exactly where we are right now.
Correct.
Let me start because you have a bill for decriminalization.
Correct.
What are the chances of that passing?
I feel very confident that when we go back to the legislative session in January, feel very confident that we'll be able to have the decriminalization bill pass.
Law enforcement, are they for this?
Depends on who you ask. If you talk to
them, for the most part, like the cops on the street, do they like writing tickets for this, or are they arresting people for this?
They don't like dealing with it at all for the most part because they know they need to focus on other things. Most cops become cops to deal with violent crime, to protect people from violent people. That's not what this is. They would love to be freed from this. Unhandcuff our police officers on the street so they can address those serious issues of crimes against our children, missing children, domestic violence, rapes, robberies. That's what they would prefer to do. But unfortunately, the hierarchy, which is more political, tend to hold on to the prohibition of marijuana for political reasons.
What about the argument that when you go after these low-level drugs, you're actually fighting higher crimes? It's the old broken window theory. You go after the small problems, you beat the big problems.
Right. And honestly, I don't necessarily believe in that. I mean, one of the major reasons why I introduced the bill last legislative session and plan to introduce it again in January when we go back is for the simple fact that for a lot of people, the results of being arrested as a young adult for a small amount of marijuana has basically wreaked havoc on their future. You have college students who are there on a scholarship who get caught with a joint and all their scholarship is completely taken away. You have young adults who apply for a job and have been arrested, and you have to check that box that says you have been arrested. Oh, it was a drug offense. Well, you can't say, well, it was just a joint. You know, most people are thinking the absolute worst, that I'm going to hire a heroin addict. And in reality, that's not the case.
We talked about the morality of it. Is that the crux of it?
Yeah, the problem is we have to learn how to separate morality from legislation. We shouldn't attempt to legislate morality. As someone conservative such as I am, you know, I'm for smaller government. I'm for less expensive government. I'm for the Constitution. I'm for the Bill of Rights. You know, I'm for our citizens having the freedoms that this country is supposed to afford you. But I think it's important that I comment on something that you said regarding use. One of the most addictive drugs that we have is tobacco, nicotine. What have we done over the past couple of decades with tobacco use of this legal product? We've reduced consumption by about 40%. And how do we do that? Through education, through treatment, and through social influence. When it's cold and it's a foot of snow on the ground, where do you have to go to smoke your cigarette?
You know, it's interesting you brought up tobacco because it was prevalent for so long because there was so much money involved in tobacco. You also brought up selling things over the counter, which is legalization, not just decriminalization. Doesn't Delaware look at the money that Colorado is taking in taxes and Washington is taking in taxes and say, boy, would like part of that?
I think we're all looking at that, absolutely. I think the state of Pennsylvania is looking at it. I think the state of New Jersey, and I also think, the state of Maryland is looking at that, hands down. And, you know, I don't want to be, you know, the last state in the region. Eventually... No,
you want to be the first.
Exactly.
If you're the first state, everybody comes from Pennsylvania and Maryland and New Jersey and New York and Maine and Florida.
Right, and I agree with you. And, you know, one of the reasons that decriminalization will be voted on this next assembly is for the simple fact that, you know, you have Maryland. Our states here in this region, I mean, they're so close together, you can't have decriminalization driving from one state to another. It's, you know, people are going to get extremely frustrated if the whole entire region isn't moving forward on the same issue together. And I do. I mean, believe you me, if one of these states introduces a legalization bill, I think hands down our state has to.
It's important to point
Look
out
at
that the
it.
governor says he would not sign
Currently,
a bill
that
legalizing
currently,
marijuana.
yes, that is his stance.
The legalization, I know you're pushing
Right.
for decriminalization, but jumping to legalization,
Sure.
it's going to come down to money, is it not? I mean, once these states look and find out how much money is made, it's going to be like casino gambling.
It seems to always come down to money, not just the money that's going to be made and the product's tax. But think about this. In 2010, here in Delaware, you spent over $13 million on possession arrest for marijuana alone. Not any other crimes involved, just simple possession. It's a lot of wasted man hours and resources in our law enforcement community, in our court systems, and so on. So you're going to have huge savings, and then you're going to have the tax side of this. But you're also going to be putting a lot of people to work as they have in Colorado, which means a lot of people are moving to Colorado because jobs are available now. But the other side of this is that in Colorado, every month, they remove more than $14 million from the illicit trade, from the crews and the gangs on the street corners that hire children to sell marijuana to kids in our schools. And that's why crime goes down. Yeah. And less guns are being bought, too.
Right. We're running out of time, but your bill, what do you see? What goes forward now?
So we go back in January to Dover. I plan on introducing the bill then. Hopefully it will go through committee and be voted on in the House, and then it'll move over to the Senate.
Okay,
so,
and what's the timeline on that, do you think?
Well, depending upon how quickly things move, I would really like to see that bill on the governor's desk probably by the springtime.
Will there be hearings?
Absolutely.
Are you going to be coming up?
Absolutely. I'm at her beck and call whenever she wants.
Well, thank you so much. Representative,
thank you
so much.
Pleasure.
Neill, thanks for coming up.
Thanks
it's Neill Franklin, and I want to make sure I get the title right, Executive Director of Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, and also Representative Helene Keeley, 3rd District, Wilmington. We'll be back in a moment.